The door slammed shut with a thunderous crack that echoed through the empty house like a gunshot, but it was the sound of my son's voice, sharp, accusatory, laced with that entitled fury, that truly shattered me. "Mom, what the hell have you done with the money? It's gone. All of it." His words hit like a slap, the air in the living room thickening with a metallic tang of betrayal. I stood there in the dim glow of the afternoon sun filtering through dust-moted curtains, my hands trembling around the mug of cold tea I'd been nursing for hours. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with a cold, seething rage that had been simmering for months. He thought he'd cornered me, this boy I'd raised from scraped knees to corporate suits, but he had no idea what I'd prepared in the shadows of my own quiet desperation. It started innocently enough, or so I told myself in those early days of denial. Mark was always the ambitious one, my only child, the one who'd clawed his way out of our modest suburban life into the gleaming towers of finance downtown. I'd been proud, God how proud, watching him graduate top of his class, land that high-paying job at the investment firm. But pride has a way of blinding you to the rot beneath. At 68, widowed for a decade since John's heart gave out in the garage one rainy night, I'd leaned on Mark more than I should have. He handled the bills, the investments, the complicated stuff as he called it, because my arthritis made typing a chore and my eyes blurred at spreadsheets. "Let me take care of you, Mom," he'd say with that charming smile, the one that reminded me of his father. And I did. Until I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. The first hint came in the mail, an innocuous bank statement stuffed among junk flyers for lawn services we didn't need. I opened it absent-mindedly while the kettle whistled on the stove, the steam curling like whispers in the kitchen air. My savings account, built painstakingly over years of scrimping, John's life insurance, my pension from teaching third graders for 30 years, showed withdrawals I didn't recognize. 5,000 here, 10 there, funneled into something called Mark Ventures LLC. My stomach twisted, a sour bile rising as I traced the dates. They coincided with his business trips, the ones where he'd call late, voice slurred from client dinners, promising riches that never materialized. I confronted him that evening over dinner, the scent of roasted chicken filling the dining room, a meal I'd prepared with hands that ached from chopping vegetables. "Mark, honey, what's this about the money?" I asked, sliding the statement across the table like a fragile olive branch. He paused, fork midway to his mouth, his blue eyes, my eyes, flickering with something I mistook for surprise. "Oh, that. Just some investments, Mom. I moved it to higher yields. You wouldn't understand the market volatility." His tone was patronizing, wrapped in false concern, like he was explaining colors to a blind woman. I pressed, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "But you didn't ask. That's our nest egg, Mark. Mine and your father's." He set down his fork with a clink that rang too loud in the silence. "Come on, Mom. You're getting forgetful. We talked about this last month." We hadn't. I knew it in my bones, but doubt crept in like fog. Maybe the pills for my blood pressure were muddling my memory. He reached across the table, patting my hand, his skin warm and smooth against my wrinkled veins. "Trust me. I'm building something for us. For the family." Family. The word stung. There was no family left but us, and even that felt like a crumbling facade. That night, alone in my bed with the sheets tangled around my legs, I lay awake, resentment bubbling like acid. How dare he gaslight me, his own mother? But beneath the anger was heartbreak, a raw wound that throbbed with memories of him as a boy, curly-haired, laughing as he chased fireflies in the backyard. Had I failed him? Spoiled him with too much love after John died? The thoughts swirled, a vortex of guilt and fury, until sleep claimed me in uneasy fragments. Over the next weeks, the hints piled up like unpaid bills on the counter. Credit card statements arrived with charges for luxury hotels, expensive dinners, places I'd never been. My calls to the bank were met with polite deflections. "The account is joint, ma'am. Your son has access." A word that now felt like a noose. I started checking online, my fingers clumsy on the keyboard, the screen's blue light casting harsh shadows on my face. More transfers, more lies. He was draining me dry, funneling it into his failing startup, the one he'd boasted about but never shown proof of success. Humiliation burned hot in my cheeks as I realized the extent. I'd trusted him blindly like a fool. Friends at the senior center would ask about Mark and I'd beam, "Oh, he's doing so well," while inside resentment festered. I imagined confronting him again, screaming until my voice broke, but fear held me back. What if he abandoned me? Left me in this house with its creaking floors and echoing emptiness? No, I couldn't risk that. Not yet. Instead, I began to plan. Quietly, in the dead of night when insomnia gripped me like an old enemy. I'd sit at the kitchen table, the wood cool under my palms, sipping chamomile tea that did nothing to soothe the storm inside. Fantasies of justice played out in my mind, reporting him to the police, watching handcuffs snap around his wrists. But that was too crude, too public. The scandal would destroy us both. No, my revenge needed to be surgical. A slow poison that he'd swallow unknowingly. I started small. I opened a new account at a different bank, one he didn't know about, transferring what little remained in dribbles to avoid suspicion. The teller's sympathetic eyes met mine as I signed the forms, her voice soft. "Everything all right, Mrs. Harlan?" I nodded, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. Just organizing things. Inside, obsession took root, counting every penny, documenting every theft in a hidden notebook tucked under my mattress. Doubt plagued me, though. Was I overreacting? Maybe he meant well, investing for our future. But then I'd remember his dismissive tone, the way he'd glance at his phone during visits, as if I were an obligation. Heartbreak twisted into cold resolve. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled man named Ruiz with an office that smelled of stale coffee and regret. "Follow him," I whispered, sliding cash across his desk. "Find out where the money's going." The reports came in emails, each one a dagger. Photos of Mark at casinos, arm around women half his age, laughing as chips piled up then vanished. Drugs, too. Subtle hints in blurry shots of powder-dusted tables. My son, the golden boy, was a gambler, an addict, using my life savings as his personal ATM. The revelation hit like a physical blow. I doubled over in the bathroom, dry heaving into the sink, the porcelain cold against my forehead. Guilt gnawed at me. Had my overprotectiveness created this monster? John's death had left Mark fatherless at 18. Maybe I'd compensated too much, shielding him from consequences. But resentment overpowered it. He'd betrayed me, humiliated me in the most intimate way. I began to weave my web, contacting a lawyer friend from church, her voice crisp over the phone. "We can freeze the accounts, sue for embezzlement." But I wanted more than legal justice. I wanted him to feel the sting, the helplessness I'd endured. Subtle hints of my plan emerged in our interactions. He'd drop by unannounced, the scent of his cologne overpowering the house like an invasion. "Mom, need anything?" "Groceries?" He'd ask, eyes scanning the room as if searching for clues. I'd smile sweetly, offering coffee, while inside I plotted. "Oh, I'm fine, dear. Just fine." The tension built, a slow burn, as I waited for the perfect moment. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows like impatient fingers, he showed up agitated, tie askew, hair disheveled. "Mom, I need to borrow some more. The business is close to a breakthrough." Borrow. The word was a lie, and we both knew it. My heart raced, anger surging like a tide. "How much?" asked, voice steady. 20 grand. "It'll be back in a month, I swear." His eyes pleaded, but there was manipulation there, a calculated vulnerability. A faint hesitation, buying time. "Let me think about it." He left frustrated, slamming the door again, unaware that I'd already moved the bulk to safety. That night, alone with the storm raging outside, I finalized my preparation. Moral conflict tore at me. Was I becoming as monstrous as him? But the obsession won. I'd make him pay, not with violence, but with revelation. I'd expose his secrets, cut him off, force him to face the ruin he'd wrought. Little did he know the trap was set. Part 2, The Reckoning. The confrontation came sooner than I'd planned, on a crisp autumn morning when leaves swirled like confetti outside my window. Mark burst in without knocking, face flushed, clutching his phone like a weapon. "Mom, the account, it's empty. What did you do?" His voice cracked, a mix of panic and accusation that sent a thrill through me, cold and satisfying. I sat at the kitchen table, hands folded around a fresh cup of tea, the steam rising in lazy spirals. The room smelled of cinnamon from the muffins I'd baked, a deliberate touch of normalcy amid the chaos. "Sit down, Mark," I said calmly, my voice a blade wrapped in silk. He paced instead, shoes scuffing the linoleum, his breath coming in ragged bursts. "You transferred it. Without telling me. That's my money too." The entitlement in his tone ignited the fury I'd banked for months. "Your money." I wanted to scream, but I held back, letting the suspense build, watching him unravel. "It's not gone, dear. It's safe." I sipped my tea, the liquid hot on my tongue, mirroring the burn in my chest. He stopped pacing, eyes narrowing. "Safe where? Give me access. Now." I set the cup down with a deliberate clink. "No." The word hung in the air, simple yet seismic. His face contorted, shock, then anger, then something darker, a glimpse of the desperation I'd uncovered through Ruiz's reports. We argued then, voices rising like a storm. "You've been stealing from me, Mark. Casinos, women, drugs. I know everything." The words spilled out, laced with heartbreak that cracked my composure. He denied it at first, sputtering lies. "That's not true. Who told you that?" But the evidence was irrefutable. I slid Ruiz's folder across the table, photos spilling out like accusations. He crumpled into a chair, head in hands, shoulders shaking. "Mom, I was going to pay it back. The business tanked and I got in over my head. I didn't mean to hurt you." His voice broke, tears streaking his face, and for a moment, guilt pierced me. This was my son, vulnerable, broken. But resentment surged. He'd manipulated me for years, played on my love like a con artist. "I trusted you," I whispered, voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You humiliated me, made me doubt my own mind." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away, the touch repulsive now. What followed was a tense negotiation. Him begging for forgiveness, promising rehab, repayment plans. But I'd prepared for this. In the quiet months, I'd not just hidden the money. I'd invested it wisely, through anonymous channels, into assets he'd never touch. More than that, I'd gathered leverage. Emails to his boss exposing the embezzlement, framed as concern for his well-being, contacts with the women he'd strung along, even a tip to the IRS about his undeclared investments. The slow burn of my revenge unfolded over days. First, his job vanished. A call from HR, voice cold. "Irregularities in your finances, Mark. We're letting you go." He showed up at my door, frantic, pounding until his knuckles bled. "Mom, fix this. Tell them it's a mistake." I stood behind the locked screen, heart pounding with a mix of fear and triumph. "You made your choices. Live with them." Obsession drove me now. Nights spent poring over documents, ensuring every thread tied back to him. Doubt crept in. Was this justice or cruelty? Moral conflict raged. He'd betrayed me, but blood was blood. Yet cold resolve won. He'd feel the isolation I'd endured. The climax came at a family gathering I'd orchestrated. A reconciliation dinner at a quiet restaurant downtown, the air thick with garlic and tension. Mark arrived haggard, eyes shadowed, suit ill-fitting from weight loss. We sat across from each other, the clink of silverware masking the undercurrent of suspense. "I've prepared something for you," I said finally, sliding an envelope across the table. He opened it eagerly, perhaps expecting cash, but his face paled as he read. A will rewritten months ago, leaving everything to charity. Specifically, Foundations for Addiction Recovery and Elder Abuse Prevention. "Mom, No, he whispered, voice hoarse. But that wasn't the twist. As he begged, I leaned in, voice low. There's more. I didn't just hide the money. I used it to buy out your debts, from the casinos, the loan sharks. They're paid, but on one condition. You enter rehab or they come collecting, with interest. His eyes widened in shock, poetic justice, turning his vices against him. He exploded then, knocking over his glass, red wine spilling like blood across the white tablecloth. You bitch! You planned this. Heads turned, whispers rippling through the room. Security escorted him out, his shouts echoing. She's crazy. She's ruining me. In the aftermath, as I drove home through rain-slick streets, wipers thumping like a heartbeat, unexpected consequences hit. Loneliness gripped me harder than before. No more visits, no more illusions of family. Guilt resurfaced. Had I gone too far? But as I parked in the garage where John had died, a sense of closure washed over me. I'd reclaimed my power, turned betrayal into strength. Mark entered rehab weeks later, broken but alive. We speak rarely now, tentative calls laced with unspoken resentments. The revenge was sweet, but the twist was bitter. In destroying his control, I'd freed us both, from lies, from dependency. Yet in quiet moments, I wonder if the price was worth it, the echoes of his sobs haunting my dreams.